Why are you on the floor, Charlotte? Why does the lighting suck? Where have you been? Now, I would like to answer all those questions today. But first, I only have this. Why am I on the floor? Why is the lighting bad? Those posters. Look at them. Admire them, God damn it. I hung them up last night, painstakingly, by candlelight. And it is a process I do not intend to repeat. Why didn't I turn on a lamp? The overhead lights? Anything. Well, I know exactly why. I know exactly what happened. I was all ready for bed. I turned the lights off, and only my candle was burning. And I was hit with this overwhelming urge to hang up the poster. And like you can't even see all of them. Like there's some more tucked away in that little corner there, right over there. There are more posters. You can't even see them. So the seated position is serving none of its intended purpose. And I will not be moving. Anyway, as for where I've been. Actually, I want to say something about this poster. This poster, the Forrest Gump poster, was hanging in the bathroom of my last apartment. I was gifted this poster by Eden Smith in the 3rd grade because I'd become obsessed with the movie Forrest Gump overnight. And I'm just really excited to see where life takes this poster and I. You know, it's been in my life for so long. And it's been in every room I've lived in. So I'm excited to see where me and this poster end up. Anyway, as for where I've been, I overshared the depths of my personal life. I talked about so many things in my last video, and I really just needed to take a step back, go outside, touch some grass, you know, maybe bake a cake, drink some tea, just really reconnect with nature, you know? But also, I think more of it was I just didn't really have anything that I wanted to talk about, which is weird. But again, tonight, while I was making dinner, much like the urge to hang up that poster, I was hit with the overwhelming urge to talk about things that I've consumed recently. Books, media, TV shows, food, anything that I have ingested into my body. I want to talk about them. And this recently that I'm saying, probably 2 weeks, last week and a half, I'll be glossing over the entire month of November. That never happened. November we will not meet, okay? And I think I can live with that. I think I would prefer to live like that, actually. If we just kept end of October and November, Charlotte, you know, out of the public record, out of my digital footprint, that would be just fantastic. Anyway, actually, you know, when I said I'm glossing over the entire month of November, I'm lying, because this first book that I'm about to talk about that was recommended to me by my friend JC, he gave it to me at the end of November, like near Thanksgiving. So actually, yeah, okay, like the last week of November will be included in this, okay? But other than that, we're done. Anyway, the first book is called Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut. This is the best book I've read in recent memory. And like, I've been trying to work my way through like the high school classics. I kind of want to intimate myself with, you know, every book people were forced to read in English class. And I feel like you can tell a lot about a person based on what was their favorite book in high school English. And mine was Catcher in the Rye. And I don't know if you can tell about the everything about me or just some things, but I feel like it really shows. But I think JC said that one Kurt Vonnegut book was his favorite book that he ever read. But if he could play around with the order that he read some of Kurt Vonnegut's books in, he would read this one first, Slaughterhouse-Five. And I was like, okay, like, I'll read it. Like, I'm on this pilgrimage to really invest myself in the classics, or what we deem as classics in the United States of America high school English. So I read it, and oh my goodness, it was so wonderful. It was told from such a unique perspective, and like the narration of it kind of reminded me of Tress of the Emerald Sea. I read that this summer by Brandon Sanderson. Garrett gave it to me to read, and just like the way that Hoyd narrates that novel and that story is kind of similar to how Kurt Vonnegut like narrates this one, because it's like he talks about like this guy, his name is Billy Pilgrim, I believe is his name. But like Kurt Vonnegut's character is also in the book. So it's like, and then he was like sitting next to me on the train, and it was just like a weird perspective, but I absolutely ate it up. And anything that involves aliens and time travel, that's all me, man. That is all me, man. So JC really understood his audience when he recommended me this book. But it was like, I don't pretend to know at all what the word absurdist means, but if I had to like pin a book to it, I would pin this one. I feel like one of the reasons why people dog on Bleacher's Jack Antonoff's lyrics so much is because they're not something that can be like understood on the first go through. Like he, on one hand, he does things that just like sound good and words that just like sound interesting together. But on the other hand, it's like, you know, there are no rules to language. Of course, there are grammar and shit like that. But like at the end of the day, you can say whatever the hell you want, right? And like the way that I feel about Bleacher's lyrics is like they are a bit like nonsensical in a way, but that also provides so many deep and hidden meanings. But also like you can jam out and say random shit like maybe it was the day that Kendall Pepsi smiled. But then he has another lyric in the same song where it's like, these days of our lives are rough and they're fast and unfair, held together by a paper clasp and drenched in the moment past. Like that, just brilliant songwriting. And I feel like that's how I felt about Slaughterhouse-Five. He had a couple quotes in there that I really loved. I didn't intend on sharing them with you today because I forgot about them until this moment, but I did write them down. There we go. On page 18, he says, I asked myself about the present, how wide it was, how deep it was, and how much was mine to keep. And this is coming from a character that really is reckoning with his, like, place in time, you know, the eternal struggle and labyrinth between free will and fate. Like, what does that mean? So I don't know if I'm completely misreading the themes of this book, but that's what I got from it, and I'm not going to escape my truth. Anyway, the second book that I read that changed my life this month was A Christmas Carol. Now, I grew up doing the Christmas Carol ballet every single year, so I knew loosely the story, but I never read it. And this summer, I picked up a copy of it at Half Price Books, and with my grandma, and I made plans to read it in December during Nutcracker. But then I just couldn't wait anymore, and during Thanksgiving, I had finished Slaughterhouse-Five, and I needed another book, and I sat down and immediately started reading A Christmas Carol. And you know what? I think I really enjoyed reading that more, like, around Thanksgiving, because that's when we used to do the show, and it felt so vivid when I was reading it. And having, like, already a really, really deep relationship with the story, and then reading the book, I loved it so much. I actually did, like, a full book report in my notes down here. I've been debating whether or not I want to. I've been debating whether or not I want to actually like make a whole book report about A Christmas Carol on here. But I think I just thought of this right now. So this is a real idea coming to fruition before your eyes. I think I want to do Which is a Better Ballet for the holiday season, Christmas Carol or Nutcracker, now that I can confidently say I've been in my fair share of both productions. I'd say I've been in more productions of the Nutcracker. Like, I did Christmas Carol every year, but I'd say I've done more shows of Nutcracker at this point, just because. Anyway, I'm going to shut the hell up about that, because we're in the here and now. But I reread A Christmas Carol. Not reread. I read A Christmas Carol, revisiting the story that I once knew. And it was so beautifully written. It goes like so much deeper into Scrooge's character and like why he is the way that he is, but it doesn't excuse any of his behaviors. It doesn't like it doesn't make him likable. You know? Like at the end of the book, like they're like, "Oh, and he was reformed." But like he had to work for it. I don't know if I'm making any sense. I loved A Christmas Carol. It's such an easy read. Both of those books are easy reads. I read both of them in like 2 days. So it's like, if you have a normal person schedule, you can knock this out in a weekend. Like Christmas Carol was like 115 pages. And that was my like little pocket-sized book. So like you can read that shit in a couple hours. I'm a very slow reader, and even I got through it. Okay? Go read those books. Do yourself a favor. The next thing that I want to talk about is Wicked. Now, I, like every other YouTuber on the planet, was gonna do like an hour and a half think piece on Wicked because I loved that shit. There were some things I didn't like, of course, with anything. But I loved it. I watched it on Thanksgiving, and then the Monday after Thanksgiving, I went to see it again. And I already made plans with someone to go see it again on Christmas Day. And you know what? After I get home, I'll probably see it again in theaters. Will I be pirating it on illegal websites between those times? I can't confirm or deny that fact, okay? But allegedly, you might find me on a Sunday afternoon looking up Wicked 1, 2, 3 movies, watching a TikTok live stream of someone who downloaded the movie. You will find me there. You won't find me there. You might find me there. Who's to say? But Wicked was beautiful. The coloring in that film, everyone was dogging on it. But it was so wonderfully put together. Ariana Grande was fantastic in this movie. Okay, everyone was saying, oh my god, she's fucking fantastic. But I didn't have that high of hopes. I was like, she's still gonna be so Ariana Grande about it. She was not. I don't know who the fuck that was, but it was not Ariana Grande, okay? It was just wonderful. The costumes in that film were wonderful for the main characters. But the second they had to dress an extra, it was awful. All the shiz uniforms, I really hated them. Also, I love Bowen Yang. I hated his character in this film. The point where, like, Glinda starts dancing with Elphaba, and both of them, like, come up, and they, like, talk to Glinda, and they're like, hey, what are you doing? That, to me, felt so shitty, high school, teen, YA Netflix movie, right? Like, it was so tacky and bad and boring, and I did not like it. I also would have loved, I haven't read the original Wicked book, and I kind of want to now, but in my mind, Oz, imagined it a little bit more Dr. Seussian, and I feel like they got it really right in the scene in the library where it's all spinning and they're, like, jumping on it. Like, that, to me, is very Ozian, okay? But, like, they could have had a little bit more, you know, hijinks, a little bit more knickknacks, a little bit more of things absurdist, okay? Like, a little bit more things that are, like, a little bit off the wall, because the wizard himself is, like, you know, a little kooky. So we really need to lean into that with a little bit more of our architecture, a little bit more of our, you know, the things that they use every day. I think they could be a little bit more whimsical, if you will. But talking about shitty YA Netflix movies, I want to talk about two other movies that I watched recently. One, I rewatched The Christmas Prince and The Christmas Prince, The Royal Wedding. Next on the docket is Christmas Prince, The Royal Baby. Don't spoil it. I've already seen it. And it came out like 3 years ago. But I'm excited to watch it. And I also watched a Netflix Hallmark spoofy movie that came out last year, I believe. And it's about this girl who goes to England to visit her sister, and her sister's fiance's brother is a famous soccer player. But then they have like a meet cute out in the street, and they meet each other, and they're like, oh my god, you're my sister's fiance, whatever the fuck. And he's a famous soccer player, and then it's like, it's like really Christmas in Notting Hill, I believe it's called. Wow, I can't believe I just pulled that out of the recesses of my mind. Phew. I'm like Dumbledore with that silvery little strand that I put in the pensive. That was me just now. Wow, that was crazy. I think it's called Christmas in Notting Hill, or some Christmas time something with Notting Hill. But I've, you know, boiled down the Hallmark movie formula to 3 things that we can always count on to be in a Hallmark Christmas romance rom-com movie, right? Number 1 is a meet cute / a meet rude. A meet cute, like you get stuck in the elevator. A meet cute, like you drop your books at this guy's feet, and oh my goodness, he's the most beautiful man I've ever seen in my goddamn life. Or a meet rude, like in Christmas Prince, it opens with her trying to get a taxi, and the guy steals it from her, and then she goes, sees him later, like, you're the guy who stole my taxi, and he's like, what about it? So like it's both extremes of the spectrum. So also in the soccer movie, it, like in Notting Hill, where he bumps in and like spills his coffee all over, or orange juice all over her, that's what happened in this movie too. And like the meet cute versus the meet rude, I mean, you just have to meet in a way that people these days just don't really meet. Like, in no world does a handsome stranger pour his coffee all down my shirt, and I walk with him to his house so I can get, quote, cleaned up. What? Bro, just give me the napkins you have in your back pocket and let me go on my merry way. Gosh. So that's number one. Number two is there's going to be a fugly ass piece of jewelry handed down to them by their dead mother. That's it. There's going to be a fugly jewelry piece. And 9 times out of 10, it's a fucking heart locket. I actually do love this necklace so much. And if you will pry it off my cold dead body. But it's like a big chunky locket, like something like that you don't want to wear every day, you know? Something that like I wear this with me in the shower, I wear it to bed, I wear it everywhere, I dance in this. I couldn't function in those big dead mom necklaces that they're carrying around their bodies all day, every day, right? Like, it's just insane to me. And the last thing is there's going to be undeniable lack of chemistry. The 2 leads of this movie, they're going to be like, it's like 2 brick walls interacting with each other. It's like putting 2 of those blow up mans in front of each other and just watching them for an hour and a half straight. That's what watching one of these rom-com Hallmark movies is like these days. And you know what? I eat it up every time because I feel like such a sense of identity with the main girl, because it's like, if I were her, yes, I would also be swept off my feet and melt on the spot. You know what I'm saying? I feel like that's, really the reason why we're making these movies. Anyway, so those were some wonderful things that I got to watch this month. Let's talk about things that I've been listening to. First, X's by Cigarettes After Sex. This album is fantastic. I feel about it the same way I feel about Charm by Clairo. All the songs sound the same, but not in a boring way. It's in it like a comforting way. Like, I'm not going to sit and... This isn't a road trip album. Do not get it twisted. Do not listen to this album in the car. You will fall asleep. You will crash your car due to lack of interest in the world around you. You know what I'm saying? This is, you're sitting backstage in your dressing room and you're putting on your 3rd face of makeup for the day. That's when you throw on this album. This is, you're sitting in your dressing room and you're working on your 5th puzzle of the week. That's what this album is for. Similar album, Being Funny in a Foreign Language by the 1975. I've never really been into the 1975 hell. I listened to Chocolate in 2014 when it came out. Sue me, all right? Or was it 2015? I actually don't really care. I was deep in it. But the song When We Are Together came on one of my Spotify mixes. And at first I hated it, which is a good sign that in 3 more listens, I'm going to love it. And that's exactly what happened to this one. And also About You is on that that album, and I do really enjoy that song. How Jack Antonoff can make these beautiful soundscapes of music that is literally like just a whole world is occurring in my AirPod. I don't know how he does it. It's phenomenal, and this man needs to do sound for movies. Anyway, but I think these 2 albums really spurred on my need to make a new playlist, and also the song Margaret by Lana Del Rey featuring Bleachers. So Jack Antonoff spurred on my desire to make this new playlist. It's just the bubble emoji. If you want to find it on my Spotify, it's just the bubble emoji. It consists of songs like Margaret by Bleachers and Lana Del Rey, Cowboy Like Me by Taylor Swift. You know she's going to sneak her way on there. I'm about to add Illicit Affairs too, but that's it. I also added Slut. But that's it. That's the only Taylor we're adding. About You by the 1975. Also, When We Are Together made it on the playlist. I think we're going to add, not Oh Caroline. Oklahoma. I don't know what that song is, but there's another song on the playlist that I'm going to add. No, I'm going to shut up. Holding You, Holding Me by Cigarettes After Sex. And there was another one. Tejano Blue or something was on there too. And I'm going to add a couple more. I added a Delwater Gap. I think it's called Sorry I Am, but you can go look at it if you really want to. But that playlist has also been a mainstay in my current listening. Margaret especially, that's at the top of my on repeat, and I'm not sorry about it. Like, it is such a good song, and it's so beautiful. And that's also what I'm saying, like, about the Jack Antonoff Bleachers absurdist lyrics. Like, you can really hear his influence on that song. And when Lana and Jack do anything, it's going to be a bunch of incoherent mumbo jumbo, and I love it. I can't get enough. You will catch me there all the time. But yeah, I think that's it for music. But I do want to talk about what I've been eating. Last week, I made the best batch of roasted chickpeas I've ever eaten in my entire life. I was just like sitting and just snacking on them like they were a bag of potato chips. They were so flipping fantastic. Thank God I wrote down how I made it. I immediately wrote down how I made it so I can like recreate it to the best of my abilities whenever I want to. Roasted chickpeas, and at the beginning of the week, I steamed a whole bunch of cauliflower. My mom makes this like cauliflower in the oven. She like roasts it or something. And I never figure out how that works. And like, I don't really want to know. That's like a her thing, but I'm trying to figure out how I want to make my cauliflower. And I think I found it. I steamed a bunch of it and then I put it on the skillet, like when I wanted to heat it up to get it like a little bit crispy. But I didn't like when it was crispy, but it was still like crunchy, not crunchy, like crispy, but like, you know, I wanted it to be steamed, but I also wanted it to be crispy. So I made it work and I threw it all in a skillet and I put some salt, pepper, some everything but elote, the Trader Joe's seasoning, and some Old Bay seasoning. Now, I've always been really deep into Old Bay seasoning, but this right here, this just pushed me over the edge. Like, I can't get enough of Old Bay right now. And I made chicken tonight, and it killed me not being able to put in Old Bay because I was using, like, Italian seasoning, and those don't really mesh. But, yeah. And last night, I make breakfast burritos in the morning, and halfway through the week, I like accidentally ripped off a tortilla wrong and it was like in half and I hated it and I wanted to cry. But then last night I made like a quesadilla out of that half of the tortilla. I was just like trying to eat the rest of the food in my fridge before I went grocery shopping. And then I finished the cauliflower and I finished the chickpeas and I finished the other half of the avocado that I didn't eat. And it was the best meal I had in weeks. It was just fantastic. So I just wanted to share with everyone. I make really good roasted chickpeas, and I just found that out. Isn't that great? Isn't that great when you find out you have like a new talent? It's just so wonderful. Another thing I've been absolutely devouring is the chocolate chip muffins from Aldi. Oh my God, I can't get enough. It was just wonderful. This week we went to Kroger instead of Aldi, so I got the lemon poppy seed muffins, which are always a delight. But it was something about those. Like, no, I didn't even get the lemon poppy seed. I got chocolate chip muffins for Kroger. So, we'll see how those stack up. I don't think I've had chocolate chip muffins from Kroger. But the Aldi ones, those ones were killer. They still are. And I might go sometime this week to get them. Let's see. So, this week, I also watched Set It Up again. I didn't really include that originally because it was like a rewatch and I don't really like... I didn't think it was important at the time, but then I wanted to talk about how I was getting on myself about not journaling or writing any like anything recently, but I also at the same time wasn't listening to myself and realizing what I actually wanted to write, you know? So when I was in ballet class one day, who's texting me? Oh my God. That totally just ruined my train of thought. I was on a roll. Now I have to sit and think about it. I was in ballet class one day and I thought of a great line that I really loved, but it wasn't just like a line or a quote or like the start of a poem. It sounded like the start of a novel. And like, not that I was going to sit down and write a novel, but it's like, oh, like if I were reading a novel and that was the starting line, like that'd be fun. Like, that would be a book that I would want to read. And that was, like, things that I would do in the past. Like, I'd write things, like, write situations I wish happened to me. A lot of them, like, in like, the silly little, like, romance, like, To All the Boys I Loved Before, The Summer I Turned Pretty category, you know what I'm saying? Like, I would write things like that. But then, like, I thought of that opening line, and then I couldn't sleep one night, and I just started going ham. Pen to paper, not even typing. I then subsequently started typing it up and I worked on it in the dressing room. But I was reminded by this quote in Set It Up where this girl's talking to her friend. She's like, of course your first draft is going to be shitty. You have to let yourself write shitty things. And like, I don't consider myself a writer by any means. Like never would I be like, oh, and I also like to write, you know? But like, it is fun. Like it's fun. It's a creative outlet. And I wasn't listening to myself in like the things that I wanted to write. I would like force myself to write things that didn't seem genuine just for the act of doing it, when like there was something I did want to write about, but I didn't let myself for some stupid reason. So this week I finally let myself, and it was so much fun. It was just a blast. But another thing I want to talk about real quick is Pinterest poems. I've posted a fair share of my poetry on Pinterest. I think I have like 2 things on there. But I love going on Pinterest and reading the poems and looking at all these people that ruin their poems by mentioning coffee. Anytime a poem mentions coffee, like, oh, and coffee, like, it just like takes me out of it and I'm pissed off. Or like if they mention the internet or phones, bad, immediately bad. I don't know why I feel this way. I just think it's bad and cringy and stupid and dumb, and stop writing things like that. Sorry. I'm not going to yuck anyone's yum. I'm not going to tell anyone not to follow their bliss. Write what you want to write, okay? If there's a lesson we learned today, it's write what you want to write. And if the words coffee end up in your writing, it's okay. That's your cross to bear. You wear that crown of thorns, okay, bud? But yeah, like there's some like real bangers on Pinterest though. So like that's why I keep going back. But then I also keep seeing awful things. It's like, you know, in The Lakes, where like The Lakes is like one of Taylor Swift's most beautiful songs. But then she goes like, I'm not cut out for all these cynical clones, these hunters with cell phones. And I'm like, shut up. And then she says, a red rose grew up out of ice frozen ground with no one around to tweet it. And I want to strangle her for ruining that song. It didn't ruin it. I mean, it was like one of my most played songs for a while, okay? But that doesn't mean I liked those lyrics, all right, girl? That's kind of what it felt like. And I think the last thing I want to leave you with is this. It goes back to Cigarettes After Sex and the 1975, 2 different bands. And I wrote this. I'm going to read verbatim what I just wrote here. If the 1975 is alcoholism and a cocaine addiction, Cigarettes After Sex is smoking a joint out of a window in the middle of winter. Like, I want to know what she was thinking. I want to know. This was like half an hour ago I wrote this. How long have I been? Yeah, half an hour ago I wrote this. I don't even know what it means. Couldn't tell you. But I know it makes sense. You know? Like, yes. Because, like, the 1975, Matty Healy would put on this performance, this shtick where, like, he would just, like, go on stage and, like, drink all night and chain smoke cigarettes. And, like, that was, like, part of the band. Like, when you go to shows, like, that's part of the show. You know what I'm saying? It's part of the spectacle. It's camp, if you will. And oh, I will. So, yeah, it was, like, very much based in that. So, like, going off of that, Cigarettes After Sex, it's just a bunch of people on stage passing a bong back and forth. That's what it sounds like. And it's beautiful. But they're 2 sides of the same coin is what I'm trying to say. And I think that's why I'm getting really into both of them at the same time. One sec. Yeah. And it also reminded me of, you know, in John Mulaney's Baby J, he's talking about his intervention, and he says he was, it was in the middle of December, he was chain smoking cigarettes out the window. And you know how a sober person would? That's what he said, not me. And he asked the intervention person, he goes, were you even prepared for me? That's kind of what both these bands feel like to me. Anyway, that's what I'm going to leave you with. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I have. I know I've been talking about at warp speed, often stumbling over my words. But it's been fun. It's been fun to like flex these muscles again. I can't wait to get back. Let me know what you want to hear next, because I literally have no ideas. Anyway, bye.